Alright, today I have my friend's quad here. I have it all warmed up and I've been doing some testing here on the dyno. Found it was low on horsepower. It's down on the low 20s, the rear wheel, which is really low for this quad. Nonetheless, I hooked up my air fuel meter. I have it here, and basically I have my air fuel pressure tester at the same time. So what I'll do is I'll start it. I'll do a quick little run here. And you can see, full throttle, it's going to drop pressure. So it should be at 51 at all times. So that's enough testing. I don't need to run this thing too long. You don't want to hold it wide open, run and lean like that. It's definitely really hard on the motor and all that stuff. So nonetheless, you got to determine the problem. And as I said, like if a guy's just to take this into a shop and simply hook up a fuel pressure tester, he'll say, oh, it looks fine. It seems to be producing the pressure it's supposed to. Everything seems to be working. I checked the gas tank vent. It has an upgrade kit on it and everything. Nonetheless, proving it on the dyno is first off proving it by finding out it's low horsepower, second off proving it with the air fuel meter, and then third off you can actually prove the pressure on the fuel pressure. It's hooked up in the system, dynamically running. You can actually see it at full throttle dropping off. I've seen it go as low as 30 psi while it's running, and it should not drop at all when you're full throttle. So I'm going to put a new fuel pump in it, and then I'll do another test and we'll see where we're at. Alright, I have a Can-Am 650 Outlander here. What we had was it was losing power. Basically, the customer was out riding it in the backcountry, and sometimes he'd have power, sometimes he wouldn't. So I brought it in, put it on the dyno, found the horsepower is way down. It's way below where I expected it to be at the rear wheel. It was down in the low 20s, 19 to 21 horsepower as a rule. You know, depending on which run, it seemed to vary a little bit. So the next step, I put an air fuel meter on it while it was on the dyno. That's usually how we test things, to see if we need to do any jetting or any tuning with the power commander or whatever. And the air fuel meter showed it was going down to 17:1 air fuel mixture, which is extremely lean. So the next step, put a fuel pressure tester in the system. And the nice thing about that is anybody can put a fuel pressure tester in a quad or whatever, fuel system, you know, fuel injection, whatever, and run it in the shop and think, well, it looks fine. And this quad actually looked fine, just idling, riding around a little bit. But when you went full throttle, it would actually drop off as low as 30 psi sometimes. So the thing is, that's where the dyno came in really handy, is they actually able to load the quad down and hold it full throttle and watch the fuel pressure drop. If you took it to a normal shop and they just hooked a fuel pressure tester up, they'd say it passes every test, and they'd say they would not know what was wrong. A lot of shops would spend hours upon hours, maybe have you back 3 or 4 times trying to figure out what the hell's wrong with this thing. All it is once you're under load, you lose fuel pressure, then it leans out, then you lose your horsepower. So I double check that the tank vents are working good. These are a new tank vent system that comes with a new pump, but check the old ones anyway. That wasn't the problem. Check the fuel filter on the fuel pump. Looked at the fuel inside, made sure there's no water or anything there. Now I've got a new fuel pump in the system and it works really well. So let's do a dyno run here. Alright, let's have a look and see how that looks. Don't worry, I previously had the quad warmed up. I've been running it for a little while here. It's consistently pulling 29 horsepower at the rear wheel. I have a couple runs from that, so I wish I could get my camera to zoom here or focus. Let's add a couple runs. So first off, let's go down here. Go to this one. This is one of the earlier runs. Look at the difference. That's how much power we've gained, which is a huge percentage difference. Now let's actually add Some people might be thinking, oh, those numbers aren't that high, blah, blah, blah. They should be making more power than that. You got to remember, this is at the rear wheel. This quad actually makes quite a bit of power, yes, but it has a shaft drive system. So basically, it goes through a transmission, through a set of CVT clutches over here. If you look at this, you lose some horsepower in here, but you can tell it's not losing a lot because they're not too warm. A little trick for testing on the dyno is I can feel a tiny bit of heat in the clutches, but not much. As a rule, any heat in the clutches is wasted horsepower. So you got a little bit in the belt, a little bit in the clutches, a little bit through the transmission, then it changes directions, goes through a CV shaft, goes to the back diff, also loses a little bit of horsepower through the back diff there. So you have all these things causing losses. So you're not going to see the full, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if this motor makes close to 50 horsepower at the crank, but once you have all the losses to the rear wheel, you're going to lose quite a bit. Let's have a look here and see what we can find. I have one more run saved in here. There it is. So this is a run from a few minutes ago. You can see the two runs that are 29.1 and 29.6 horsepower. Those runs are very consistent, and that's what we're looking for. It's not just about the fact that it made, what is that? Almost a third more horsepower. So, you know, somewhere around 30% more horsepower. That's amazing, but it's also doing it consistently. Before it would run 19 horsepower, then 21, and sometimes 23. And that means the fuel pump's trying, and then it's plugging up, and then it's trying, and it's not working. So now it's all good. I think we're actually pretty close to where we need to be for everything. I'm going to just put the quad back together, and we're going to try it out.